Massive breaking news this evening. CM Punk has been fired from AEW. Tony Khan has terminated CM Punk's contract. Of course, this comes well after what will be the final straw at AEW's All-In Wembley Stadium show last week in front of 81,000. Of course, backstage before CM Punk's match with Samoa Joe, there was an altercation backstage with Jack Perry, aka Jungle Boy. Of course, this is in relation to the meant to be to do with the broken glass that Jungle Boy had been wanting to work with, and of course he had his match on the buy-in with Hook. There was glass actually used with the car that was brought in, or limo, wherever it was, in his match against Hook. And of course, once the suplex had been done on that, he went to the camera and said, "That's real glass, cry me a river." Of course, when he got to backstage, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and CM Punk were face to face. Of course, that led to the altercation. Of course, here he say, she say, you believe what you will from those. There's been different accounts that have come from it. CM Punk, of course, being one of those, pretty much along the lines of that. Perhaps Jack Perry started this a little bit, although CM Punk finished it. But from multiple other sides of the story, it does seem to be that CM Punk approached Jack Perry. Of course, for me, it's allegations of either side of what it can be. But there has been a statement that's been released by All Elite Wrestling and Tony Khan. I'll read that for you on the screen for you now, and then I'll go into your comments and also for your questions. All Elite Wrestling has terminated the wrestler and employment agreements between Phil Brooks, CM Punk, and AEW with cause effective immediately. The termination was confirmed today by Tony Khan, CEO, General Manager, and Head of Creative of AEW. The termination follows a week-long internal investigation of an incident occurring backstage at AEW All in London on Sunday, August 27th. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee met and later convened with outside legal counsel before making a unanimous recommendation to Khan that CM Punk be terminated with cause. Khan offered the following statement. Phil played an important role within AEW and I thank him for his contributions. The termination of his AEW contracts with cause is ultimately my decision and mine alone. Of course, I wish I didn't have to share this news, which may come as a disappointment to many of our fans. Nevertheless, I am making the decision in the best interests of many amazing people who make AEW possible every week. Our talent, staff, venue operators, and many other whose efforts are unsung but essential to bringing our fans great shows on television and at arenas and stadiums throughout the world. So there you go. That's pretty much the statement that was released there from AEW and from Tony Khan just, probably short of an hour ago at the time now that I'm recording this video. So, I mean, to come for it really, I mean, I've got a question here. What happened though? I mean, it wasn't backstage, so I can't say exactly what has happened. But of course, if you look at CM Punk over the last 12 months or so, it's been a lot of drama in AEW. Of course, you can go back to Brawl Out could have been the first of where it started. Of course, the big controversial press conference, of course, after the show. Then we had the Brawl In stuff, of course, with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. CM Punk at that time, we wasn't sure if was suspended or not, but of course, he was someone that ended up being away through injury for about 8 or 9 months. Of course, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were suspended and were brought back towards Full Gear later that year. Fast forward then to when CM Punk does return. He returns to his own, pretty much his own TV show on Saturday night's Collision, separated from the Bucks and the Elite on Dynamite. So they will do their stuff on Wednesdays. Punk does his stuff on Saturdays. Of course, Punk did make one rare appearance on Dynamite. Of course, that was the week that the Elite were not in attendance. Now, of course, since then, of course, CM Punk has pretty much had his own control, it seems, with creative, you would say, as well. He's had the program with Ricky Starks, had his stuff going with Samoa Joe, but he has had say on people who couldn't be at Collision. Ryan Nemeth being one of them, being close to the Elite. Hangman Adam Page was another one alleged that was meant to be in the area for a Collision show, was meant to be doing a recording, and of course then he was told to do it away from the arena. So CM Punk had his pulling power. Like I said, when it comes to Jungle Boy Jack Perry, that was when he was going to say he was going to use real glass. He was going to be written off TV for 1 week. Of course, he was going to be going to Hawaii on that 1 week. Isn't he lucky? I think many of us would like to go on that destination. But at the same time, he wanted to use real glass. And of course, many people backstage took exception with this. And of course, CM Punk was one of those. I believe Tony Schiavone was another, but CM Punk was someone that suggested to go and talk to Jack Perry about it. Of course, there was a bit of a disagreement. The idea that Jack Perry was throwing his toys out of the pram, if you will, and CM Punk's pretty much verdict was, if you're going to do that, do it on Wednesdays. You don't do it on Saturdays. So pretty much, you could say that is where the story is alluded to. And backstage, like I say, it's been backwards and forwards of who was meant to have made the first push, the first tussle. But of course, it is meant to be that CM Punk ended it with some form of choke on Jack Perry, allegedly. There is meant to be video footage, though, of this, not been released at the time of recording. Be interested to see if it ever does. But of course, like we say, when it comes to AEW and their discipline committee, they've been probably had to keep an eye on this all the way throughout, been able to make their decision. Also, there has been rumors as well with CM Punk and Tony Khan, of course, actually of an altercation after this as well. Of course, Punk didn't get his way to Tony Khan, but was screaming and saying that he quit. So, I mean, if he was quitting, then I guess perhaps he's got his way here with this termination. Of course, there were rumors as well that his match was not even going to go ahead with Samoa Joe at All In. Tony Khan was even prepared to call in the Young Bucks and FTR to actually start the show off. But of course, Samoa Joe did calm things down. The match did go ahead as planned. And there we are, CM Punk, what looks to be his last match, his final match in AEW, of course, against Samoa Joe, which was a good match as well, by the way. We'll throw that neat detail in there at All In at Wembley Stadium. So that's pretty much a lot of the details that's known. And to give my opinion on it, I'm surprised that CM Punk actually has been fired from this. Now, some may say, well, he's had a lot of things that have followed him throughout his AEW career. Obviously, he's had his stuff with WWE in the past as well, of course, with Triple H and his walkouts and stuff after the Royal Rumble back in 2014. But I'm surprised that Tony Khan actually did it. I thought he would try and cool things over, just like he did last time, try and bring CM Punk back and try and move things forward. But of course, that's not the case. He has been fired. The interesting part is this is taking place on a week that all the events of AEW are taking place in Chicago. Now, Chicago, of course, will be hosting Collision tonight, which was meant to be CM Punk's show, and All Out taking place tomorrow, which of course a lot of people have had a bit of critique for. Of course, 1 week build after All In, some saying the card not as strong. I wonder if CM Punk chants are going to be taking over Chicago over the next 24 hours. And that's not to say that we may not get CM Punk chants at a WWE show tonight called Payback, because I'm sure there will be some WWE fans out there that would like to see CM Punk return. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I am a CM Punk fan. I always have been a fan of his in-ring work, been a fan of the pipe bomb, his stuff on the stick as well. Even when he comes back, he creates controversy. There's something about CM Punk that you turn around and say, I'm interested in what he is doing. You cannot say that when he's on the screen that you want to look away. There's always a must-see TV about it. So for me, I've always been a fan of CM Punk, what he brings to the product and what he's done. The stuff backstage, though, look, to be fair, not seen it firsthand, so I can't comment that badly. But look, you could say there's no smoke without fire in the way. His name's been linked with a lot that's what's been going on, and for him now to be fired, there must be some truth to that element of the accusations that have been thrown of what's happened backstage, not just at Brawl In, not just at Brawl Out. Hey, look, suspensions and now firings seem to be all about. I've been talking for about 8 minutes. Let's go into your comments and see what you've all got to say. And of course, we will move on as well. If you want to talk about WWE Payback and you want to talk about All Out as well, we can do that as well. Throughout your comments, feel free to get involved. Jonesy in the house, hope you're doing well. Jonesy, thank you for checking this out. Hope you're keeping well this Saturday evening. Lillian as well in the house. Thank you, Lillian, for checking this out. Hope you are keeping well. Jonesy says, with the first proper comment in, says, wouldn't it be cool if WWE brought Punk in as an outsider role like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in WWE? Now, for me, I'll actually take this as a question of what if Punk was to come back to WWE. For me, I think obviously as money, it would obviously print it. I'm sure people would come and see and be invested what CM Punk would do in WWE. This would be a very creative way to do so. But at the same time, I'm not convinced that CM Punk ever wrestles again. I'm not convinced that CM Punk comes to WWE after this. I think he may be done with wrestling entirely. I just feel to myself that there are probably enough people in WWE that don't want to see CM Punk back. I would imagine Triple H as well, if you go on past belief backstage and what Punk has said on previous podcasts about Triple H in the past, I can't imagine that he would want him back. Although there is Endeavor now that's involved with the deal, Vince McMahon's meant to be making decisions. I would be surprised if Punk came into WWE. I would be surprised if Punk went anywhere. I don't think he would be affordable for likes of an Impact Wrestling, for a New Japan, for example. AEW now seems to be out of options as well. So it feels to me that CM Punk may have wrestled his final match in professional wrestling. Colton Gunn, I'm guessing not one of the guns, but good to see you in the house anyway. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Of course, Bullet Club, bang, bang, gang. Look at my eyes. What do we see? A serious case of toxic masculinity. Loving your work there. Fantastic. Nubico in the house as well. It seems that Punk getting fired from AEW just hours before WWE Payback. Absolutely. Just have to say quickly as well, though, Jones did mention about WWE a second there. Survivor Series is in Chicago. Now, I'm not sure of what the situation will be with CM Punk if it's a case of where he's got to do, a service of 90 days, say, for example, being released of the contract, if he's been paid up outright and is free to do what he wants to do. I'm not sure what it would lead to, but it'd be very interesting. As I said, Survivor Series is in Chicago. If you were going to do it anywhere, that probably would be the place that you would do it. But it does seem like this could be a situation that perhaps maybe this show, Payback, could also be hijacked with CM Punk charts. I wouldn't be surprised. It happened for 7 years after he left in 2014. Let's see how long it lasts this time. Lillian asking who is my favorite wrestler. CM Punk was one of them. I won't lie to you. But to say right now would be probably AJ Styles. He's still one of my favorites today. I think that he never has a bad match, if I'm being brutally honest. But if I'm going all time, then it's a toss up between Shawn Michaels and Rob Van Dam. Always enjoyed what they brought to the squared circle. Russell Boom says, "What up, Steve? I never thought CM Punk would get fired." Same. I couldn't believe it either. I must admit, as soon as I saw it, I originally thought to myself, I might do a video tonight about the fact that John Cena was hosting Payback. Wasn't something that was discussed in the predictions. Well, that could be an excuse to do a Q&A or something, just do a video about. No, CM Punk fired. I thought, scrap all of that. We're in here. We're going to talk all about CM Punk. And I've got to say, I'm as surprised and shocked as you are. And of course, ONW as well, saying to us that that's crazy that Punk was fired. It is crazy that Punk was fired. WrestleBoom asking you then, do I think the CM Punk will turn to WWE? Honestly, I don't think it's going to happen. If I had to do on a scale of 1 to 10, just to make a bit different from what I've said already, I would say that it's probably a 3 out of 10 chance. I don't see it happening, if I'm being honest. Lillian asking, do you think he is going to be fired or fired? When he has been fired, it's official. He has been fired, as you can see with the statement that was done at the start of the video from All Elite Wrestling and Tony Khan. Josie says that the timing is a disaster since All Out is at the United Center in Chicago. To be honest, I actually thought that if they were going to do this, and let's say if they were going to do this, they probably could have left it till Monday. I would have thought that would have been the best time to do it. To do it tonight, 24 hours before the show, you're doing it in Punk territory. So I think they must be prepared of the backlash. But I would say, as a fan now, talking as a fan, I'm talking about the CM Punk situation, it does make All Out a bit more interesting. Now, I have done a predictions video, and I'm very thankful for anyone that's going to check the video out. But I would say that my excitement for the show isn't as high after coming out of All Out. They've had 1 week to build the show. Of course, as I said, there's a number of factors of why the show has had so many changes and why there's perhaps not so much strong booking going into it. But at the same time, I wasn't as excited. This happening does add buzz to that show tomorrow night, because you wonder what the crowd will do. Are they going to crap all over the event? And if they do so, that may make it interesting, or they may just support all the talent even more, and it may make something even more interesting what we see on screen. Either way, it's going to be must see for that reason now. And I must admit, my excitement level for All Out does come a little bit higher after what's happened today. Do I think that Punk suffers from CCTV? I'm guessing is where you're going with that. Quite most probably. If there is video footage, as I say, that's been speculated. I don't know, but of course that is something that perhaps they could go off and check and see what's happened, and perhaps maybe make their evaluation from there. But of course, if some things are to be believed of what's been said in the rumor mill, then you wouldn't think so much CCTV would have been needed to have made such a decision if there was an altercation with CM Punk and Tony Khan. But that's a big if. I have to make sure that I say allegedly throughout the whole of this video, and you probably understand why. Joseph says that Punk was a big draw for both shows. It is believed that Punk versus Ricky Starks for the Real World title was scheduled for the main event of All Out, and that is true, Jonesy. That has been out there, of course, in the dirt sheets. And I've got to say, first off, I do feel for Ricky Starks. He had a big program. He was, in my opinion, really benefiting from working with CM Punk. It was a really good program on Collision that we're doing for the first number of weeks. Of course, Ricky Starks have been in the storyline suspension, and goodness knows he's coming back from it. A hell of a lot has changed. But I do agree with you, CM Punk was a big draw for AEW. Of course, he's going to be arguably, you could say in a way, a big miss for the company. He does draw numbers. He's a great merch seller. Like I said, when he's on screen, people are watching. And, for Collision, a lot of it was based around him. Now, I know the ratings for Collision were going down a bit, but I can guarantee you that the bits of Collision that were doing well, that had eyes on the prize, were always CM Punk segments. For me personally, looking at this, I would say that AEW will need to put a new face of Collision. Now, Jonesy, me and you have spoke off air already on this one, and I said, look, Adam Copeland, Mercedes Monet, if you're putting a feeler out and saying, I want to sign an Edge, Sasha Banks, I've used the real names a second ago, that asking price from those two people who could move numbers for AEW and especially if they were to go into Collision, I'm sure their asking price has gone up with the news that has broken earlier on. Silk, NX Steve in the house, of course. NX Steve, of course, he's a regular on this channel, as you know. He says, "You say disaster, Jonesy, but it will draw eyes to cause people will want to see the fallout." And that's the thing. I actually am quite intrigued by that fallout as well. I'm going to say curiosity will draw me in even further now to All Out tomorrow. Russell Boom says, in my opinion, if not the Elite or Jack Perry's fault, CM Punk can only blame himself that he's fired. And to be fair on it, we don't know all the scenarios and all the variables of all the things that have happened, but CM Punk is the one constant that is involved with this. So if that is the case, and a lot of things that have happened appear to be true, then Tony Khan has the grounds to have done what he chooses to do, what he has done, and potentially has made the right decision because he almost lost the Elite this year. There was, of course, contract discussions. There was rumors that they potentially would leave at one point to go to somewhere else. They did re-sign in the end. I imagine now you probably would see other talents that have not been allowed on Collision to now be appearing on Collision more often. If there was this sort of soft brand split or what was going to be hard brand split, I wouldn't be surprised going forward. Now, if you see the likes of a Kenny Omega, Young Bucks appearing on Collision going forward. And of course, there are rumors. We mentioned Ricky Starks a minute ago is meant to be on Collision tonight, challenging Ricky Steamboat to a strap match for All Out. I wouldn't be surprised if Hangman Adam Page takes the place there of what was meant to be CM Punk versus Ricky Starks for this show. Would it be the main event? I do not think it would be. If I had to guess now, the main event of All Out, I would guess potentially would be Omega versus Takeshita or Orange Cassidy versus John Moxley with the way that that was built on Dynamite this past week. But Hangman Adam Page versus Ricky Starks in the strap match certainly would be a match I'd be very interested in seeing, even though it would be quite a short build. And you were saying to me, why Hangman Adam Page? He's a cowboy after all. If it's a strap match, that's why I make the connection. And especially then, it would also show quite early that people will be going back onto Collision that weren't allowed on previous. It would show the authority side from Tony Khan and from All Elite Wrestling. ONW says, if Punk returns to WWE, you think he's going to take out Roman to win the title since Roman holds the title past Punk's longest WWE title reign? Very good question. I mean, let's talk then if he was hypothetical. I said, I don't think it will happen. But of course, let's look at the other side. Personally, for me, I think a Roman Reigns match would be on the table. I think it would be a match that I think Roman would do. I think Punk would do as well. It certainly would have that big time feel for a big time show. But I don't think Punk would be winning. And I think it'd be the wrong move for Punk to win, purely because if Roman Reigns is going to drop that championship, it should be to an up and coming star, not to someone who's probably in their mid 40s by now. You want to, evolve and push the stars of tomorrow. Punk was a star for WWE 10, 15 years ago. You're looking for the people now that, I'm saying people in their 40s. There are some stars on the rise that are in their 40s in WWE, LA Knight being one of them. But I can't help but think someone like a Cody Rhodes would be better. Someone's on the cusp of being a top star for the next 5 years for WWE. And I think that would be more of a correct move rather than the CM Punk. But that's just me. Silk says WWE won't bring Punk back until they want a cheap pop for the Hall of Fame. And that's if Punk would accept that Hall of Fame induction. I'm not so sure that Punk would actually take it. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that is the most likely scenario that we see him coming in. Of course, we've got an opinion here from Pierre. Thank you for putting your opinion on it as well. This is CM Punk got fired because he buried himself and he paid the price for it. There we go. Josie goes on to say as well that with Punk being 2-0 in backstage fights in AEW, does that make up for his UFC record? He may think so, but to be fair, no one's seen it, so it's not going to be for the rest of the guys. But could that be something that Punk would look to go back into? I'm not so sure, but maybe that could be an avenue he may choose to go down. I don't know. Payback should be renamed Punk Back. Maybe fans will be chanting Punk Back. We'll have to wait and see. ONW says he's the cult of personality. He certainly is. And I'm going to be honest here very, very quickly. I was really happy to see Punk perform live. He was one of the big draws for me with All In. And when I had the opportunity to go to that show, I was looking forward to seeing CM Punk wrestle. I'm going to be honest, I was probably like one of 10% of that crowd that was chanting for CM Punk during the match. I'm a Joe fan as well, but look, the realism is I was a bigger Punk fan, and I thought it was the right move that Punk won that match on that particular show. However, you can't excuse a lot of the things that have been going on, and it could prove to be the right move that he's no longer with All Elite Wrestling. regardless of if that's his call or not. I am calling it right now. There will be a riot at All Out. WrestleBoom, I hope you are wrong, my friend. I hope you are wrong. And West Coast Podcast, WrestleMania is Philadelphia. I like what you did there. Great pun of the words there. And who knows, if he was to come back to WWE, he's never main evented WrestleMania, has he? Pierre says, after this, I don't want to see Punk back in WWE. That's fair. It's your opinion. I don't want to see him wrestling ever. Fair enough. That's fair enough. Some people will not want to see Punk back in a wrestling ring and understand their stance on it. Who is my favorite women's wrestler? Very good question, Pierre. Io Sky is probably my favorite women's wrestler. I just think most of the time, if not all the time, everything looks flawless and perfection. So yeah, Io Sky, probably my favorite women's wrestler of all time. If I'm going to go down that avenue, probably Trish. Probably Trish, I would say. I mean, she did very well in the Attitude Era, and she's doing good now. She's nearly 50, and she's doing amazing work in WWE. Of course, involved in the steel cage tonight, Payback against Becky Lynch. Silk says Punk has been fined, no payout, and no non-90-day compete clause. Now, I'm not aware of that information, but apparently Silk says that has been confirmed. If that is the situation, Punk is free to do what he wants and appear where he wants any time he wants. I suppose it's watch this space. And just to answer then my take on that, if CM Punk does appear in another wrestling company, I will be watching. Doesn't matter where. It could be the NWA. I would be watching if Punk turned up, just because I'm interested in what CM Punk does when it comes to a wrestling ring. It brings eyes to the prize when it comes from me, who is a CM Punk fan. But for those who are not interested in seeing CM Punk and not going to support him going forward, totally get it. And the thing is, if all the actions that CM Punk has done are true, then of course I don't support those actions, of course. If you enjoy the video, by the way, make sure to hit the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. Continue with your comments in the meantime. ONW says, think about it. He shows up like Goldberg and Lesnar segment. Punk takes out Roman. Be a hype for a return. It would be a massive hype for a return. It really would be a massive hype for a return. I just don't think he would be right to take the championship from Roman Reigns. We built up now Roman for such a long time. In my opinion, a new star should be taking that title, because the second they beat Roman, they are a star for life. CM Punk, arguably, whether people like him or don't like him, is already a star. Zodiac Z says, let JB use his real glass next time. If Punk getting fired is ultimately what he got because he didn't use that glass, Punk was looking out for JB. JB doesn't even realize it or appreciate it. And you know what? I am obviously not aware of the full ins and outs of it, but from what you're saying, Zodiac, I actually agree. I think that it wasn't right for Jungle Boy Jack Perry to want to use real glass. That's dangerous. It's not good in the working environment. He was trying to look out for him. Now, maybe if Punk was told to go and talk to Jack Perry about this, that probably wasn't a smart move either. That's probably helped and contributed to what's happened here. Again, there's a lot of ifs and buts, but I actually agree with what you're saying. WrestleBoom says, dream match for WrestleMania 40, CM Punk versus LA Knight. But I think that would never happen. It's just a fantasy idea. And do you know what? I like your fantasy idea because they are both fantastic talkers. And as you can see with LA Knight and The Miz, fantastic talkers make a fantastic story, therefore make a match that certainly I am quite invested in. I think quite a lot of people are quite invested in going into Payback. Probably question of the night here from NXT. What podcast do you think Punk tells his story? Won't be Colt Cabana's, that's for sure. We'll have to keep an eye out. Maybe Punk will start his own podcast. Could you imagine the Pipe Bomb podcast with CM Punk? I can see it now. And Punk, if you trademark it, I want some royalties for that. Colton Gunn, what do you do with the real world title now? Honestly, I think you scrap it. I think you just quietly let it go. I think maybe someone can make a comment, because if they maybe can't mention CM Punk, but maybe they can say maybe MJF is the one to do it with the real world's title. This is the only real world's title. You can forget about that other one, that other joke copy championship, something like that. Move it out of the story. Just write it off with a wrestler talking about it in a 1-2 line segment, and it's gone. Because to be fair, at the time, it was interesting. If they'd continued with Punk staying there, I think we would have got Punk versus MJF. I think we would have done this at Full Gear. And I do think it would have been a similar scenario to what Punk did at Money in the Bank 2011, where MJF would have gone with the championship, gone over the guardrail, and blew the kiss of Punk. Something like that would have happened. But of course now, and I don't think it's the first time they were building to CM Punk and MJF in the last 12 months either. We're now not going to get it. And this time, I don't think there's ever a chance of it coming back. WrestleMania says, I'm calling it right now. The Women's Championship at WrestleMania 40 matches will be Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez and Bayley versus Io Sky versus Dakota Kai. I agree with one of those matches, and it's actually the Damage Control triple threat. I think Rhea Ripley could be going against Becky Lynch at the time of recording. But WrestleBoom, I like that you're out there getting those predictions in nice and early. And I'll be honest with you, I've actually done a WrestleMania 40 match predictions video twice. I've had to scrap it twice. Why? Because of reasons. I'll let you figure those reasons out. Silk says there is wording in the TK press statement that means he was fired for disciplinary reasons. That's why no payout and no compete clause. There we are. There we go. And Eric Colton Gunn is Eric Douglas. There we go. Watching Andrade recently as well. Feels like Eric Douglas has got on the AEW bandwagon, and I like to see it as well. Colton Gunn, fun stuff indeed. Good with the name change. A top lad in house as well from Hammer's chat as well, and a top mark as well if you want to follow his wrestling channel. Absolutely wild, completely and utterly wild. He goes on to say there, yeah, it's a wild Saturday night and not what we were expecting to come into. We thought we'd just have a calm WWE Payback show where probably the biggest question is, will there be any more friction with the Judgment Day? No, CM Punk has been fired. John Cena is going to be hosting that show, and we're probably going to have CM Punk chants throughout the entire evening. It's going to be exciting. I can't wait. WrestleBoom says, if CM Punk returns, he should not dethrone Roman Reigns. Cody Rhodes should dethrone Roman Reigns, says WrestleBoom. There we go. Also agreeing with myself there. Pierre says, the real world's title is CM Punk's title, not AEW's title. There we go. He can keep it in his trophy cabinet at home. And Colton Gunn here says, Rhea versus Liv Morgan for her to get her revenge. And he does say, yes, he was Andrade too. Well, I'm going to say to you very quickly, ladies and gents, if you've got any more questions on that, feel free to get them in now. Quickly, in the meantime, I'll remind people, if you've not seen them, to go and check out my WWE Payback predictions. They are available on the channel for you right now. It's in a podcast format. And of course, also, you can see my all-outs, also those predictions for 2023, which will, of course, will be taking place tomorrow. That is a short video format in less than 10 minutes. So if you want to go and check those videos out, I highly recommend it. There is a Payback quiz as well on the channel as well for myself and Alex Steve if you want to go and check those out. But that is the big breaking news anyway. CM Punk has been fired from All Elite Wrestling. That's the big breaking news that has happened this evening. What will the fallout be from that? Time will tell. What more will come out from it? NXT has already shared a few bits that have been released since I've started recording, so I've tried to keep up to date with everything. I'm sure more news and speculation will come out from the dirt sheets over the next sort of coming probably hours and days. So keep an eye on the channel. I'll try and keep you up to date with everything that is going on. WrestleBoom has thrown in John Cena versus Jimmy Uso for Fastlane. We'll talk about this actually as well as it's coming. I'm quite pleased you brought it in actually. I think this is a really good idea if they're going to do this. The whole segment of John Cena and Jimmy Uso for me made a lot of sense. And I do think this match would be great for Fastlane because Jimmy Uso, if he's going to be one of the top guys now in WWE on SmackDown in the meantime till Jay comes back, for me, Jimmy Uso needs some big wins. John Cena would be someone that would make a big win and a big play to make Jimmy Uso a bigger deal in WWE. I can see John Cena probably want to work with the likes of Grayson Waller, perhaps maybe LA Knight once again. I personally want to see him against Gunther. That's a match I want to see. Probably not going to get it. He's meant to be on the SmackDown brand. Austin Theory could be another one. They might want to revisit it. I mean, Austin Theory hasn't done anything since he's beaten Cena. They could revisit the program if they wanted to. But last little thing I'll just say on Jimmy Uso quickly. Is it me or did they start building for War Games this past week on SmackDown? Because Jimmy Uso wanted out of the bloodline. He's been told now that he's only out when they say he's out. And now he's helped Solo Sikoa defeat AJ Styles. Are we going to get the OC versus the bloodline at Survivor Series in War Games? Just an early little observation I've made from SmackDown this week. It could mean absolutely nothing. Time will tell. Top lad here says, I need to wake up early, but there was zero chance I miss Collision tonight. So Collision over Payback as well there. So that clearly shows what impact this has, because that could be the case. Maybe there will be some people saying, you know what? Payback, probably a predictable show. I'm interested to see what's going on Collision tonight. So that could be very interesting there. And will you be going live for this? I suppose you're saying you need to be up early, so perhaps you won't be on this occasion. But if you are, let everyone know where to find your stream in the chat. Zodiac says, my goodness, Chicago is going to be wild. It is going to be wild indeed. My name's Steve, though, just to quickly throw that out there. But Tom will be going live in a couple of moments' time. I'm sure a few of you will be checking out his stream for WWE Payback. Colton says, would you like Liv to win the Rumble if she returns early enough? If she returns at the Rumble, yes, I would like to see that. I'm still of belief that we're going to get Becky versus Rhea. But if it's not Becky, I think Liv should be the one and should get the moment at WrestleMania. I think that would be awesome to see. Io Sky is currently the champion. She would have been my other top pick to win the Women's Royal Rumble. So Liv is definitely a contender. I think it all depends on fitness of when she comes back. Certainly, though, I would like to see it in the final two for sure, like she was this year. NXT is suggesting Jay versus Jimmy versus Roman. Would love to see it. Actually, would like to see perhaps maybe Solo involved in the equation. Why not do the Fatal 4-Way? Let's give it all to everyone, shall we? Top Lad will not be going live for it. Just sat on the sofa, popcorn in hand. And do you know, it's not a bad shout, to be fair. Payback will have to wait till tomorrow now. And do you know what? I can't say I blame you on that one. For me, unfortunately, in the modern day, everything has to wait till tomorrow. Unfortunately, I'm getting a bit old, everyone. I'm not going to reveal the age though for you. There is a rumor Cody Rhodes versus John Cena feud is being planned, says Russell Boom. And do you know what? I've seen that rumor. I've seen it. I've also seen the rumor that the Grayson Waller effect is the starting point of Cody moving to SmackDown. Time will tell if that is true or not. But if Cody is moving to SmackDown, perhaps Cody versus Roman at WrestleMania 40 just might be on. And it might be my main event for WrestleMania 40 when that predictions video eventually comes out, which has been recorded twice. PS says, all right, guys, it's the Payback kickoff, so it's a good bite from you. Well, enjoy Payback. I hope that you enjoyed the show. And also, C Nation dropping in as well. So says, can't believe CM Punk got fired from AEW. It is a massive shock that it's happened. I'm surprised that it's happened, but you know what? If all of those variables that have happened with CM Punk over the last 12 months or so, perhaps even longer, have played a factor, then perhaps it is the right move. Like I said, I'm a big CM Punk fan. If you look at CM Punk's run in AEW, for example, you look at that feud with Eddie Kingston, he got everyone invested in 1 week in that feud. Those two just ate the ring up and made everyone want to see their match. I believe it was at a Full Gear, I believe, the first Full Gear he was at. So Punk has had some amazing times in AEW. We look as well at the program of MJF the first time round with the dog collar match. That was superb as well. Punk has done some brilliant stuff. It's just a shame that from the Hangman Page rivalry onwards, things have just turned sour. And it's just got to the point now where it feels like perhaps it is right for them to part ways. It just seems to be the right move. Joey shouldn't be the next Impact Tag Team Champions. It should be Rich Swann and Sami Callihan. To be honest, I've not made a prediction of who I think should be the next Impact World Tag Team Champions. So, C Nation, for that reason, I'm just going to agree with you because I know how much you wanted Rich Swann to win those Impact Tag titles for a long time now. Someone please listen to CD and give Rich Swann and Sami those tag team titles. And to C Nation says that Joey should be the next number one contenders after A, B, C, but lose. I agree. They should perhaps lose. It should be Rich Swann and Sami Callihan. But I'm looking forward to the ABC feud and Motor City Machine Guns as well at Victory Road. Victory Road is looking like a tasty card, by the way. I'm looking forward to doing that. Predictions video should be dropping early next week. And Wrestle Boom says Cody Rhodes' next feud could be against Drew McIntyre, John Cena, or Shinsuke Nakamura, or Drew McIntyre again. I'd be happy for a double Drew McIntyre feud with Cody. Cody versus Drew make a lot of sense, by the way, purely on the basis that both have been away from WWE, come back and made the name as a bigger name when they returned. Would be a very interesting feud. Cody versus John Cena. I mean, it's the guy passing the torch. John Cena, the Cody Rhodes makes a lot of sense. And Nakamura right now, doing some great stuff. I'm very interested. The match I'm most looking forward to at Payback is going to be Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And I'll give you all a treat as well. I am predicting that Seth will retain tonight and that Damian Priest will cash in successfully Money in the Bank. C Nation says that Rich Swann has now been waiting since 2018 for those tag team titles, and it's a long wait. I tell you what, it feels very British to queue for that long, actually. It's a very sort of British thing to do. What happened to AJ Styles versus Karrion Kross feud? Hopefully, Wrestle Boom, it's been quietly dropped because that one was going on for far too long for my liking. I want Karrion Kross to do something more meaningful on the roster, but at the moment, they're just not giving him good enough feuds for me. Yeah, I'll tell you what, The Payback pre-show has started. I'm going to wrap things up there, everybody. Thank you all for watching. It's been very shocking news. Let me know after this video has gone off, more in the comment section, your reaction to CM Punk being fired from AEW. Do you want to see him go to WWE? Do you want to see him go anywhere else? Should he go back to UFC? Should he, in fact, just stop wrestling altogether? What's been your favorite CM Punk match? I'll give you mine right now. Money in the Bank 2011, John Cena, probably my favorite one of all time from CM Punk. But that's all for me. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all for watching. And just before I go off, I'll take this one here. Do I think Chad Gable will dethrone Gunter? No, I do not. I think Gunter will be breaking the record, and I can see him holding that IC title till towards the end of the year. But that's all for me. Thank you all for watching. Look after yourselves and each other. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube. Take care. All the best.